Hello and welcome to the Modern Day Dojo Podcast. My name is Larry Koyman and I am your host today. Today we're going to be going over how a well-designed curriculum is the backbone to a successful martial arts gym. Now, I think that your curriculum, what you teach in your school, is the delivery system for the promises that you make as a school, as a gym. You really want to make sure that that what you say you do is reflected in the curriculum that you teach. If you are a gym owner and you are focusing on building world-class athletes to compete on a world stage, you really want to make sure that your curriculum is reflective of that you have things inside of your curriculum that deliver on those promises. We want to make sure that if somebody comes into our school, if we want to build retention, if they're coming in for a reason because we say we do something, we want to make sure that we deliver on that. And if they are, what I have found to be the one true thing in the world is that students do not quit when they are improving, when they are growing, and when you're delivering on the promises that you make. So our curriculum is paramount in that arena. So we want to make sure that we are delivering on that. Now, man, I tell you, I remember back when I first started martial arts, it was in 1984, and I remember curriculum being one way. We used to have 2 hours of classes where we would focus on one or two things. We would have classes 2, 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week sometimes, and it was just a grueling just kind of repetition of the same thing over and over and over again. And yes, because of that, we built skill. But as we have grown as an industry, as things have gone on, rent has increased, which means that as a school owner, we've needed to increase our classes so we can have more students in our school. We need to decrease the time of the class so we can have more classes per day. And because of that, we haven't really adjusted our curriculum. And the result is that we now have less time to train on the things to become quality. And because of that, we've transitioned from a results-based business, a results-based industry, and have transferred into a just kind of an entertainment specifically for kids. Now, I'm not saying there's not benefits in the martial arts, but what I am saying is that there is, in my opinion, less focus on skill building and more focus on entertaining our students. And that creates a little bit of a rift and little bit of a problem and opportunity for parents to see maybe a lack of value in your program. So modernizing your curriculum, looking at it from a perspective of the parent and the students, from your clients, looking at it from that perspective, you can then start developing something that is going to deliver on the promises that we make. Okay, so that's where I want to focus our discussion today. Now, I believe at a bare minimum, we need to make sure that we are building quality martial artists. It would be like me taking my child to a swimming school so they can learn how to swim, and after 3 months, them barely being able to tread water. If that was accurate, if I went to a place like that and I got very little return on my investment, do you think I would keep my child into swimming? Of course not. So we need to make sure we're looking at our students in a way that we're building skill, that our lessons, that our curriculum, especially in the beginning part of our curriculum, is designed to build skill. There should be no reason that after 3 months, I'm still seeing students punching with their thumbs inside of their hands. And I've visited many schools, and I've seen yellow belts, orange belts, purple belts, brown belts even punching with those thumbs inside of their hands. And that is not a good thing. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are on top of that. And here's the thing too: parents see this, and they know what good technique kind of is. And when they see their child as a brown belt with punching with thumbs and hands, or kicking that they have floppy foot syndrome, they're going to end up looking at your classes as being less than adequate. That's not delivering on the promises, and you're not developing a good quality martial arts student. We want to look at what we're teaching in the beginning. Is it useful? I try to, when we would do introductory lessons or have somebody come in for their very first class, I want to teach them something physical that they can make useful on the very first class. I want to teach them something that is mental, that they can start developing a mindset that is useful the very first class. And I want the parents to have a tool that they can use the very first class to help build something within their child. Ours was focus. We always wanted to make sure that we coach the parents and the child that when we're talking, I want you to make sure you're focusing your eyes. And we teach the parents that it is a learned habit. It's not something that happens naturally. So we're going to have to remind them. We remind them in here. They remind them at home. Their teachers remind them at school. And all of a sudden, when we speak, they're going to start focusing their eyes. It is something useful. And it is something that at the very first class that they have something valuable that they can take home and that they can learn. We want to look at our curriculum in that same light. Is it useful? We need to go through with a fine-tooth comb of everything that we're teaching them, especially within the first month, and say, is this something useful? Is it something that's going to be showing them some benefit? And if it's not, we need to start looking at what can we do to make our curriculum useful. Ways that you can make your curriculum a little bit useful is to teach them a very effective, simple, effective technique. Think about it as if I was teaching a self-defense seminar to a group of people, and there's one or two things that I'm going to teach them to do. That would be something that I would front load on my curriculum to make sure that it's being taught very early, because they need to be taking away something from the curriculum that is useful. Maybe it's something that's part of your school culture or your training philosophy. So, for instance, if you are a highly competitive school and you're doing lots of physical training, we know that if we're doing lots of plyometric, lots of isometrics, they're going to be sore the next couple of days, especially if we do lots of reps within a class so they can get good practice. We know that as a beginner student, they're going to be sore the next couple of days. Training their mind to say, listen, I know you're going to be sore, but that is not pain. That's just being sore. And if it's discomfort that you're feeling, discomfort is improvement. Discomfort is growth. And as you train, you'll start to look forward to being uncomfortable, because it is in those uncomfortable moments that true growth happens. Nothing happens in the comfort zone. No growth happens if you stay in your comfort zone. So now we start kind of building them into our school philosophy and letting them know that, listen, as I'm sore tomorrow, that means I'm growing. And as I'm really sore the next day, that's growth. That's when I have to come back. So that's part of something that's useful on something in the very beginning that you can start teaching your students. Remember, you want to have your curriculum be useful, not just the same old down blocks that we used to do for an hour up and down the floor, which, albeit I'll give you, trained your body for fine motor skills. And yes, it did awesome stuff. However, I think having something that's a little bit more obvious to a basic beginner student and their parents in the beginning that is useful would make your curriculum something that becomes much more valuable. And the goal is we want to make sure that we're establishing our curriculum in a way that is not seeing your lessons, your enrollment as an expense. It's an investment that they're making in improving the lives of their child or themselves. And we really want to make sure that everything we do, especially in the beginning 3 months, is proving that this is a worthy investment and they're getting something out of it. And like I said, your curriculum is the delivery system on the promises that you make. Last episode, we talked about developing your story. The story that's an emotional filled story that tells the why you do what you do. Through that why, you have a mission. And that mission statement, that promise that you're making to your students, must be delivered through your curriculum. If your promise is that we build community, that we build connection, that we serve those around us, then your curriculum should reflect those types of attributes. It should deliver on that promise. And if it fails to do so, no matter what else you have in your curriculum, no matter if you have the most amazing physical training or the most amazing competition development or leadership class or whatever you have in your curriculum, if you fail to deliver on the promise that you make, everything else will lose its credibility. You will lose trust. So you need to make sure that you're delivering on that promise. Your mission statement must be delivered. The promise must be delivered through your curriculum. A strong curriculum should be extremely clear. Think about it like the GPS in your car. If I'm planning a trip from here to Florida, I live in Middle Tennessee, and I sign up for a service. This is going to get me there, and they can't tell me how we're going to get there. They can't tell me the direction, the path that it takes to get there. I'm going to feel a little uneasy about the journey. I'm going to feel a little uneasy about taking my loved ones on this journey. So think of it from the parent's perspective. If you're not being very clear of how you're going to take their precious 5-year-old and turn them from an undisciplined, crazy, spinning around in circles, drooling on themselves child to somebody who is a very focused, well-mannered child that understands that self-defense is used for defense only, that is not going to become the next bully, that's not going to start hitting his sister. If you don't have a very clear path to do that, it's going to make the parent uneasy. So having a very clear path, a success path, and every step along the way is a very, very important piece to your curriculum. Think about it. We do it in an okay way. For most schools, we'll hang up our belt structure. We'll hang up white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, and so on and so on and so on, all the way to black belt. But have we really sat there and thought about, okay, parents looking at that, do they really know what that is? Do they know what the colors mean? Do the colors mean anything? Do I have clear cut, this is what I'm learning at this level. This is what you're learning at this level. Here's the first year, we're focusing on this. Writing out your curriculum, maybe having them on a curriculum card, maybe evolving into a modern day dojo and having things digital so parents are able to understand they can just jump on your website, or they can just jump on your secure student portal or your circle or whatever you have and be able to get clear understanding of the next path. Here's the next steps. Here's where you are right now. Here's the next 2 steps that you need to do, that you need to focus on to earn this part. Some people just have belt ranks. Some people have belt ranks with a striping system, a detailed striping system. We have the striping system where every stripe on your belt represents a specific piece of your curriculum. So if somebody comes in and they don't have their first stripe on their belt, they know I need to be focusing on my boxing. And our coaches are in our schools coaching our students on how to be more productive, how to focus on that boxing, things to work on specifically for that student to make sure that they can earn that stripe by the time that stripe test comes around. So we never want to keep our students or our parents, our athletes in the dark of what is coming up next. What do they need to know to earn that next stripe, that next belt? We want to have a very clear cut, and we want to be a little bit of cheerleaders on getting them along the way. Not every student needs the same exact thing. So we want to make sure that they're giving specific information on what they need. There's lots of ways we can go into doing that. We do it by, at the end of classes, if there's like 2 or 3 students that didn't earn their stripes, we go immediately as they're leaving the floor, go to the parents and be like, hey, Johnny did an awesome job in class today. He was very close on earning his stripe. I need him to work on, as he's doing his boxing combination, I need to make sure he's keeping his hands up by his cheeks. And every time he punches, instead of dropping his hand, I need him to punch and return it right to his cheek. So he's always maintaining his good frame and good guard. Can he work on that? Awesome. Next class, I'm going to test him again. I want to make sure he's good. This touching base with the parents makes them feel like they are a part of their child's success. And it also is a very clear directive of what I expect. Your expectations are not failures on their part. It's guidance. So we want to make sure that we're looking at it like that. Okay. On your curriculum as well, we really want to make sure that we are making the very first steps, first year of curriculum should be something that offers tangible skill development and measurable results. Like I said, like swimming. If I'm swimming, my child is swimming for 3 months and they can barely tread water, and if they stop moving, they sink to the bottom like a rock, that is not measurable results for me. That is very minor results for the investment that I'm making in those classes. And I think what happens is, and what's happened over history, is that as we learned curriculum, we had hours upon hours to learn it. We've shortened our classes. Our classes are no longer hour and a half long, 2 hour long classes. They're 45-minute classes at best. Rarely do I see a school now that has an hour-long class. And we have all these things that they need to learn, and we stop thinking about it like a white belt. As an instructor, we say, well, we learned this stuff when we were younger. We need to do it, so they need to do it. But we're failing to see the curriculum through white belt eyes, through new student eyes. And we're seeing them through our years, decades of experience. And that is overwhelming to our students. I mean, imagine, we're talking about a roundhouse kick. We have to chamber our leg, pivot our foot, make sure we lock out the leg, good foot shape, make sure you're hitting the instep of the foot, rechamber, pull it back, don't drop your knee, and then set the foot down and repivot back to a good frame. All that takes balance, takes muscle control, takes fine motor skills. Though that is a skill that is developed over many, many, many years. And that's just one kick. What do? I see lots of schools you have your front kick, you have your roundhouse, you have your side kick, you have your hook kick, inside and outside crescent kick, you have your ready position guard stance, you have your reverse punch, your back fist, you have your high block, low block, middle block, inside block, knife hand block. You have all these different blocks you have to learn for your first belt. All these different body mechanics that you have to learn. Oh, and by the way, you have to learn a form. An entire kata, 20 moves, basic one. Sure, it's easy for us, but we don't see the difficulty that brand new students have. So we have to make sure that we're offering tangible skill development in the very beginning of our curriculum. We need to make sure that we're spacing it out. Yes, we may have learned it as a yellow belt, but maybe it's okay if they learn it within the first year. Maybe we just want to make sure that they can throw a punch at the end of 3 months. For their very first belt, they should be able to throw an effective punch. So that way they're not treading water. Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense to you. And please, I'm not crapping on anybody's curriculum or anything like that. I'm just saying, if we want to modernize the martial arts, we really have to start thinking about how we teach things and how we go about things. Because at the very minimum, when someone's coming to a martial arts school, they should be learning martial arts. They should be learning how to do martial arts with some level of proficiency. Proficiency of skill should be your very, very first thing that you're focusing on, and setting them up for success as the leader, as the teacher, as the one that's in charge of the school. You are the one in charge. You design the curriculum. And if you're designing in a way that does not make your students successful within the first month of learning something, they don't feel progress or skill at building something, then you need to go back to the drawing board. Again, my humble opinion only. So make sure they're tangible skills and that they can have measurable results. See your curriculum as a white belt, as a new parent, not through your your black belt eyes, right? Now, your curriculum, when you look at it, when you really start seeing your curriculum, you start seeing that if you go back and you start looking at why people quit, why people leave, the number one reason why gyms fail, why gyms start having higher attrition rates, is because your curriculum is failing to deliver on the expectations. When your value decreases in the eyes of a parent, it's typically because you did not deliver on the promises that you made. I can keep on harping on that, and that is the number one reason why people will leave. Now they'll tell you, "Oh, well, the classes, the schedule was just out of our hands," or "I just want them to try a different, activity." Whenever we get those at our school, I always sit down with my managers and I always ask them, "How did we fail to deliver on our promise?" And it's hard sometimes. It's easy as a school owner to look at when somebody leaves to say, well, that was because they did this, or they didn't want to work harder. I challenged them and they gave resistance. We put the onus on them why they quit. I think a real leader and somebody who is really interested in improving your school or improving the martial arts as a whole must start looking at this stuff in a mirror. What did I do? What did I fail to do to keep them involved? The number one reason why students quit is that the gym fails to deliver on expectations. And when value decreases, the gym becomes an expense rather than an investment. That's a big thing to really, a paradigm switch that you really need to start mentally going through. Is my gym, is my school an expense? We can have all the sales training in the world when we can sit down and say, yes, my gym is an absolute investment. If it's an investment, then what's the return? The return should be the value that they get out of it. And the value that they get out of it should be fast. It should not be something that they have to wait 4 years to get. And remember, the value out of your program is not your black belt. I see this a lot. I go into gyms and I say, and I'll see, we are a black belt school on the wall. That's a good goal to have, but you're training them to quit at black belt. You're training them to stop as soon as they achieve that goal. And then we say, well, your training really only starts when you get to black belt. It's contradictory things. So we really want to make sure that we are focusing on delivering the value immediately. Sit down, look at your curriculum. How is it that we're delivering value? How can we take our curriculum right now and turn it into an investment that we can clearly articulate as gym owners, as instructors? We can coach our teams to be able to clearly articulate the value in our programs. If we're able to do that, we're not selling lessons. We're not even selling anymore. We're helping people with their problems. They're coming to us to solve a problem, and we're simply telling them this is how we do it. And this is why you need to do this, because this is in the best interest of you. That's how we sell martial arts lessons. Now, if you're wondering, if you're sitting down, if you have the ego check, because I love the martial arts and I have such huge respect for anybody who decides to be a leader and stand up and teach the martial arts to help somebody else. There is, though, a level of humility that must be had when you're talking about your curriculum. When I look at my curriculum, I have to sit down and say, yes, I developed this curriculum. Or yes, I adopted this curriculum. This is the curriculum that I grew up with. I have to have enough humility to be able to look at it and say, is this really useful? No. Is this serving my students in the best way that it possibly could? And if the answer is no, I need to change it. So signs that your curriculum may be failing is you have a high dropout rate. Your attrition rate is greater than I would say 4-5%. If you're losing 5% of your school, then you probably have an issue. Now, if you have a smaller school, you have to take this with a grain of salt, because, if you only have 50 people and you lose 2, well, you're hit pretty high. So you're already over that 4%, and it's dangerous. So the bigger schools, this becomes a little bit more in alignment, but your goal, an average 4 or 5% attrition rate is high. My target, I aim small, I try to miss small. If I aim at a 2% dropout rate, and I hit 2.5, 3%, I'm not upset. If I get into 4%, I'm cautious. If I get above 4%, I'm starting to dissect what's going on in our classes, what's happening. Another thing that you have, another sign that your curriculum is failing you, is that you're having lots of parents coming up and asking you about progression. What do they need to know about this? When is testing? Why didn't Johnny earn a stripe today? This is a sign that you're not communicating your curriculum well to your clients. And when there's doubt, when there's questions, there's a gap. And people will fill that gap with negative things, negative thoughts. Maybe Johnny's not good enough, or maybe the instructor doesn't know what he's talking about. They start filling it with things that are going to create wedges and start changing their mindset that the curriculum, the school, is no longer an investment, that it is an expense. And when other things come up, other opportunities for them to have another activity, they're gonna opt into that and cancel you. So don't get into that rut. Be very clear with your curriculum. Over communicate what's going on. Over communicate when your testings are. Hey, these stripes are here. If you have any questions, go over. Here's our curriculum cards. Look at that. Make sure you really understand what we're expecting as instructors for your children to be able to do. Do Facebook posts or social media posts based on your curriculum. Hey, if you're a brand new student, here's what you're going to have to learn in the first 3 months. And it's not a lot, but we do expect skill building. We do lots of reps. We don't play lots of games. We do lots of drills. Our goal is focusing on making you a better martial artist. Now we're starting to get people to see this is our expectation. You can do things. We used to have a check testing throughout the quarter where we would have an instructor do specifically one-on-one checks. It's hard to do when you have a bigger school, but having a mid-season checkpoint with parents to let them know that, hey, your child's doing awesome. I want to see their focus better in school or focus better in classes, or, hey, how are they doing at home? Let me know what is something that you would like to see at home. If you can do this and have a communication with the parents and help something that they're struggling with at home, again, that's adding value to your curriculum. It's adding value to your program. And people don't want to quit things that they're getting lots of value out of. So checkpoints during mid-seasons or quarters or between right in the middle of the belt test to let them know exactly where they are. Because the last thing you want, I do want to say this, I have more people quit because their child wasn't on the testing list and they had no clue. They had no clue that, they didn't have their attendance in. Their attendance was not where it needed to be. They missed a week or two because they were sick or went out of town, and they just didn't know. And now all of a sudden testing came along and they weren't on the list, and they got very upset, rightfully so. And it was something that we have changed in our curriculum, that midway through, we let them know their attendance and we let them know how they're doing progression wise, and if they're on track or off track and need some extra time. Absolutely, when you do that, when you over communicate with parents, they appreciate it. They want to know. Their lives are busy too, just like yours. So over communicate your curriculum and your expectations. Clear communication creates long-term value. When you have that clear communication with them, it definitely, it also makes them trust you and your opinions. This way, later on in the curriculum, when things get really tough and you're requesting more from them, they'll trust you and your guidance. Last thing you want is going through a black belt testing and going through the process and them questioning what you're doing. It's just not good. Don't do that. So be clear, concise, let them know every step of the way. Coming up with personalized development plans for students. If somebody's struggling with something, being able to recognize that, teaching your staff to recognize when a student is struggling with something, and then serving them. Think about it. If you're old enough to be a parent, if my child was on the floor, how would I want the instructors to act with them? Then I'm going to do that for them. I look at every student that's on my floor as if it were my child. What would I want that child to receive? If they're struggling with a kick, work with them on it. Give them a development plan. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take some extra time at home. I want you to practice these things to help develop this front kick a little better. Hey, you're having a hard time. You missed a week. Let's do this. I want you to come in on Saturday after classes for a half hour. I want to work with you one-on-one. No charge. Just I want to work with you one-on-one to get you back up to where you need to be. I think just a 1.5 hour, private lesson of me would be right as rain, and you'd be right on the point. I know what some of you are going to say. Well, that's a half hour of my time on a Saturday. I charge for my private lessons. Absolutely. And I'm not saying don't charge for private lessons. But if I'm looking at a student that's struggling with something, if they're struggling and continue to struggle and get further behind in check testing and don't test, they're probably going to quit. I would imagine so. If they feel like, hey, I'm paying you and I'm not seeing any improvement, they're going to quit. Or they're not going to want the rejection class after class after class. They're going to quit. I can make it as nice as I possibly can, but they'll probably end up quitting. So taking a half hour out of my time to say, listen, I want to make sure that you are improving, that you're growing. Taking a half hour out of my time to give them the attention that they need and deserve to improve them so they can make it to that next level. That's called being a coach. That's called serving. And if I do that, maybe I'm adding value to my program. Maybe when they think about, maybe Johnny wants to do softball, baseball, football, soccer, dance, gymnastics, any number of activity that's trying to get their attention. Maybe the parents will say, yeah, but you know what? Their sensei, their coach, invests a lot of time into him personally. He values him. So we're going to stay right here. That's what you want to do. You want to plant those seeds, right? So give value. Come up with personalized plans. Other things you could do is you can start thinking outside the box. Think about your curriculum as an opportunity. I always tell my instructors, the time that we have with our students is an opportunity to impact their lives on a positive way. Problem is as instructors, we don't know how much time we actually have. I may only have one day. I may have 10 years. But every single moment that I have with my students, with my athletes, is an opportunity for me to affect their life in a positive way. And I do not take that lightly, and I hope that you don't either. If we are going to grow the martial arts industry, we have to start thinking about what are some of the best ways that we can do things inside our classes. Now, I know that there's many instructors that are not personal trainers, that don't have the background in body mechanics or PT training, how to best get the results out of our athletes. But think about how we can start adding some of those things in. Maybe I hire a personal trainer. Maybe I talk to somebody who is extremely skilled in this. We hired personal trainers to come in and train the instructors on how we can get the most out of our warm-ups, how we can get the most out of our classes, how we can make sure that we're setting them up for stability and strength conditioning versus some of the things that we were doing, because that's how we were taught growing up, was counterproductive to their flexibility. It was counterproductive to them building any stability in their joints. Look outside of what we do in the martial arts school and start thinking about how we can adapt some of these things and pull it in. If my school promises community outreach and to make sure that we're being a productive member of society, maybe I'm going to start thinking about adding in something into our curriculum like a random act of kindness program, something that gets students to start thinking beyond themselves and starts thinking, what are opportunities that I can do to show kindness to somebody else without ever wanting to get a thank you in return. It has nothing to do with what I want. It has everything to do about me giving to somebody else. When we start doing that, we're going to start becoming pillars in our communities for positive change. And the life lessons that we're teaching our students is going to be, it's going to have a ripple effect beyond what we do on the mats, beyond how we compete on in a tournament. Those are lessons that are going to be transferred well into the future, well beyond the mats. And that is exactly what modernizing your curriculum should be like. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to strive for. Think about adding in nutrition. Hire a nutritionist to come in and look at what we can do. Hey, can you give me some actionable steps that we can take here at these levels to make sure that our athletes are at peak performance, that they're getting the nutrients, the macronutrients, the protein that they need at different age groups? This is an important piece of your training. If this is what you focus on, bring outside professionalism in to add to your value. Having things in your curriculum where you're talking about life skills and you're teaching them how to do these things, emotional intelligence, mental toughness, acts of kindness, selfless service, fearless leadership. These are kind of things that you can teach your students that have ripple effects. And then, yes, you can have add-on programs later on that help develop these even further. And you can start adding more revenue into the school. So your curriculum is the vehicle of the promises that you make. And that's how we keep our promises to our students, how we add value. You want to position your school in a way that becomes a pillar in your community where you are delivering on so much value and you're creating so much change and you are the catalyst to some really positive improvements into the people, everybody that walks into your gym, not just the students, but also the parents. Everybody that walks into your gym should get something out of what you're teaching. I always say that, we have a captive audience with the students, but I know I'm doing a really good job when I'm teaching a class and I see the parents put their phones down and I see them lean into and I see them nod their head about what we're talking about on the floor. I see them cheering their kids on and lifting up everybody that's on the floor. That's how you know you're doing a good job. That's how you know you're providing the value that they deserve. So I challenge you, look at your curriculum. See opportunities that you can improve. My goal with the Modern Day Dojo is just to bring more awareness to gym owners. I want us to start looking at what we do and asking ourselves the question, is it useful? How can I truly help my community? How can I truly improve the lives of anybody who walks onto my floor? Anybody who walks into the school. Remember, I don't know how much time I have with them, but I'm blessed at the opportunity to have just 1 minute. I'll do a one-on-one introductory lesson with a student, and I have them for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I've had many parents in tears for what I was showing their child and what their child was doing. It's giving them 100% of yourself in every minute and every breath that you can to help them. And your curriculum is how you do this. Start seeing your curriculum as that opportunity. Start seeing your curriculum as the tool that you are going to use and constantly evolve. Your curriculum is constantly constantly evolving. Most gym owners, and I'm sorry if you're one of these, or I'm sorry if you take offense to this, but most gym owners squander that opportunity. They look at their curriculum as a way to kind of say, this is how it was in my day. This isn't your day anymore. This is their day. This is their time. This is their opportunity on the mats, and they're going to get out of it what you give them. This is not an opportunity. Your curriculum is not an opportunity to show everybody how much you know. It's an opportunity for you to take what you know and adapt it to give them the most value today. As instructors, we have to be able to swallow our pride. We have to be able to ignore the amount of stripes on our belts. And we have to say, how can I best show up for my students today? How can I give everybody the value that they're looking to get out of this? How do I make my value so great that they feel like they're getting a discounted price? I want them to look at what they're paying as that's a steal. And that's how you should approach your school. When you do that, you are a pillar, an example in your community of how you serve. Yes, charge a fair price. Yes, earn the money that you deserve. You're changing lives. But show up and make sure your curriculum is designed in a way that's not an afterthought. It's not in a way for me to say, see how many katas I had to learn? See how much I know? Develop it in a way that is giving them the value that when they walk out of your school that day, that they are a better person. Because you never know. They may be walking out of your school for the last time. And what work did I put into it to change their life in that moment? That's the opportunity that we have. So go through your curriculum. Look at it. Ask yourself the question, is this useful? Is this relevant to today? I'm not asking you to rewrite your entire curriculum today. I'm not. But pick one thing. Pick one thing that you can look at in your curriculum and say, yeah, you know what? If I took this out, it wouldn't diminish the quality of my martial arts students at all. As a matter of fact, probably this is kind of useless. And change it. It's your school. You're the one in control. Change it. Make one change in your curriculum that's going to affect all of your students in an extremely positive way. Maybe it's taking out a technique that doesn't need to be in there, that's not relevant, that doesn't work. Or maybe it's adding in some amazing character development thing that's going to help them and teach them an extremely valuable lesson that is in alignment with your mission. It's in alignment with your core values. And it's something that is going to affect their lives and be able to add value. This is the start of doing something that will positively impact your athletes for the life of your school. And it is something that if you do this diligently and you constantly do a review on your curriculum, I have a quarterly curriculum review, and then every year I will go through and I will make changes on my curriculum that I feel need to be made to be able to make a better impact. The more we do this, the better we're serving our students, and the better that we're going to be equipped to affect positive change. And we're going to change the mindset of our school from being an expense to an investment. And attrition goes down and quality goes up, and it's a win for everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is something I'm extremely passionate about. I'm going to have a guest on who is probably more passionate about this than I have ever seen anybody. I'm excited to bring them on. I'm gonna keep it as a secret for now, but we're gonna start having some guests on the episodes. And man, if there's something specific that you want to know or want to hear, reach out. Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. This is something I'm extremely passionate about improving the martial arts industry, because I know I see it on the students, and you do too. I see that we could be having so much more of an impact. And if you are a martial arts instructor, if you're running a school, my hats are off to you. Big humble bows to you, because you are changing the world. And I want to make the industry better so we can just make a bigger impact and we can improve the lives, save some lives, because gosh darn it, we deserve it. So next week, we're going to be going over into some modern day business operation stuff that we could be doing, that you should be doing as a martial arts school to help pinpoint some key areas that you might need to fix within your school. Please, if you are not, follow this podcast, jump onto our Facebook page, follow that. In the future, coming up very shortly, we're going to be having a Modern Day Dojo YouTube channel. So when that comes out, keep on the lookout. We're going to be talking about all things martial arts. Please like, subscribe that, ding that bell so that way you get notified of all stuff. But I will let you know in the Facebook group when that goes live, and I'll probably say it on the podcast. But again, thank you so much for lending your ears for this little bit of time that I have with you. And I'm excited to see you in the next episode.